Hello, it's Anita on 106.5 FM. I've got Chris Smith from the police, Bedfordshire Police, in the studio at this moment in time. Can you tell us a bit about what you do?
I'm Sgt Chris Smith. I work on the roads policing unit. My main role is as a senior investigating officer for fatal and serious injury collisions. But on top of that, I'm the force lead for drink drive and drug driving.
On the 1st December, the government launched a new drink drive campaign. Can you tell us a bit about that, please, Chris?
Yes, certainly. Every Christmas, the government launched the drink drive campaign, as they do in the summer, and it's about education. It's about educating people not to drink and drive over the festive period. We tend to get a spike in serious injury and fatal collisions round about this time, and the last thing we want to do is knock on people's doors come this time of year and tell somebody that somebody's not coming home.
What is the drink drive limit?
The drink drive limit is set by statute, and it's 35 micrograms of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath. That equates to what's called 80 milligrams in blood and 107 in urine. They are the set limits, if you like, within the law.
How many beers would that be equivalent to?
I can't give you an exact figure on that. It depends on so many different things. It depends on the person, their metabolism, sex, age, weight, how fit they are, what they've had to eat and drink that day. So there's so many different variables. I can't give you a set. You can have 3 pints, for example. I just can't tell you that. It varies from person to person. But you've also got to take into account that not only can you be over the prescribed limit, but if you have an adverse affection with alcohol, for example, you've got an intolerance to it, you can be what's called unfit to drive through drink or drugs. So you could be under the limit and still get prosecuted.
Okay, I understand. I mean, on a personal level, I know I have a low tolerance to alcohol, so that would, I suppose, apply to me, because I never drink that much, but it has an immediate effect on me. So there are people out there who have a low tolerance.
There are, yes.
And it can have an extreme effect on them, and they're nowhere near the drink, drive, drug limit.
That's correct. We have had it where people have a very low tolerance of alcohol. Their driving has been that impaired that we carry out what's called a field impairment test at the roadside. If they fail that, then we would arrest under a different section within the Road Traffic Act, what's called Section 4, rather than Section 5, which is your drink drive, and it's unfit to drive. They're impaired. Their driving is seriously impaired. They're a danger to themselves and other road users.
And that could be simply because they've had maybe half a glass of wine, something like, or one beer. It's just that their body has responded.
Technically, yes.
What should someone do if they expect someone is unfit and they're driving?
If you suspect somebody has had too many drinks and is going to drive, my advice is, if it's feasible, take the keys off them, phone them a taxi, get somebody to drive them home, or ultimately phone us. There are numbers you can phone, the 101 number. You can phone that through to our control room and report somebody if you suspect somebody's going to get behind the wheel and drive when they're drunk. Because ultimately, this isn't just a responsibility of the police to take action. It's a responsibility of the whole community. The last thing we want is for somebody to be driving down the road and, for example, a child runs out in front of them. They're completely oblivious to it because they've had a few drinks and they run that child over. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that any time of year, but Christmas, it brings it home perhaps even more.
So if somebody decides to report someone, is it something that's done anonymously, or do they have to give their details?
No, it can be done anonymously. As I say, you can phone the 101 number. Our control room will put what's job on our computer system, and they'll dispatch units to that. We will have additional roads policing units out over the Christmas period doing specific drink drive campaigns. So any information that we get about people that are doing it, and perhaps doing it on a regular basis, then we'll go and look at them.
If someone decides to phone 101, would they have to include like license plate number, their name, or what information would they need to tell you?
Ultimately, the more details we can get, the better. If you've got the registration number, if you've got where they are, what pub perhaps they're drinking in, where they're going to, what time they're leaving, that sort of thing, then that's all a great help, because we can then channel our resources accordingly. Because ultimately, we don't want to be committing 4 or 5 units on one perhaps drink driver for a long, long period of time when we could perhaps catch another 4 or 5 in that time.
Because of your job, you must have seen some horrendous sights, actually, and you've actually seen what can go wrong when someone drinks and drives.
I have.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Unfortunately, I've seen many, many fatal accidents, and lots include drink. I've been a police officer for 27 years. And most of that has been spent on the roads policing unit. And over that period of time, unfortunately, I've had to knock many people's doors on the build up to Christmas and tell them a loved one's not coming home. The scenes we see, the things we have to, nobody should really ever have to do that. Please, my advice and my heart goes out to everybody that's been affected by a drink driver, but my advice is please just don't do it.
New legislation about drug driving has been introduced. Can you tell us a bit about that, please?
I can, yeah. Earlier this year, there was a new piece of legislation came out that has specified limits for 16 different drugs, 8 of which are prescribed, 8 of which are non-prescribed, i.e. illicit drugs. We have devices now at the roadside that we can swab people, the same as we can taking a breath test at the roadside, and people haven't got a choice, they have to do it. If they don't, they can get arrested for failing to provide for us. And there are specified limits now. So for example, if you're going to a party and you think, I won't drink, I'll perhaps have a couple of spliffs, etc. Again, my advice is don't. It impairs your driving. If we swab for that, which we can do, cannabis, then you can be arrested, and the penalties are very, very similar to drink drive. Mandatory 12-month ban, heavy fine.
And that can be done on the roadside?
The initial swab is done at the roadside, then we take the people back to the police station where the blood test is taken.
When was this introduced? Is it something very, very new?
It is fairly new. It was actually introduced in March this year. Government actually set these limits, and these devices were type approved. At the moment, the devices only swab at the roadside for 2 drugs, which is cannabis and cocaine. However, our officers are still trained, the road policing officers are still trained in what's called field impairment tests, like the American sobriety tests, walk and turn, put your finger on your nose, that sort of thing. We do those still at the roadside in this country as well. If we think somebody's impaired, then they can still be arrested, and they can go back to the police station. They have to give a blood sample. If it comes back over that specified limit, then again, you're going to lose your licence.
It's serious stuff, isn't it, really? It's very serious.
It is, yeah. I mean, there's massive implications. Somebody loses their licence. It's not just a case they lose the ability to drive their car. It can be their livelihood. It can be their family. The whole way of life changes. You lose that licence, and that's a massive impact on people.
And the worst scenario is that you can actually hurt someone seriously, isn't it?
The worst case scenario is you can kill somebody, yeah. And that's horrendous.
If you want more information, who should you contact?
You can contact any of your local police stations. The community teams know all about this legislation as well. They know all about the drink drive campaigns. Failing that, you can phone 101, or you can look on the Beds Police website. There's Twitter pages as well, or Facebook pages. If you click on all of those, because on the build up to Christmas, Beds Police, we're running like an advent calendar, if you like. Every day we're putting something different on there to help people on the build up to Christmas. Advice on what to do to avoid getting your house broken into, how to avoid cybercrime, because of course people are spending at the moment thousands and thousands of pounds on the internet for Christmas presents. And there's a nice little piece, I think it was yesterday, that one of my colleagues put on there with regard to how to protect yourself on the internet. We're doing drink drive bits on there. We're doing local policing bits on there. So it's well worth sort of having a look, and there's good information on there.
Thanks very much, Chris. Thanks very much for the interview.
No problem at all.